It's time for Comeback Sports with Brandon, the Coach Perry, and Pat, the Shot Caller Flaherty. Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Comeback Sports. We are a weekly sports talk show. We have 10 topics of the hottest sports topics of the week, and we discuss those, go back and forth on them. A lot of good talks about what's happening in sports today at the college, pro, and even high school level. I am Pat, the Shot Caller Flaherty. As always, I am joined by my partner, Brandon, the Coach Perry. Brandon, what's happening, my friend? How you doing this week?
Hey, Pat, how's it going? I'm doing pretty good. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing good tonight as well. We've got a great show, I know, for you two tonight. So let's jump into some of these hot topics.
Yeah, it's been a busy week in sports, obviously, with the NFL in full throttle with games, but also coaching hires. We're going to get into all of that. Make sure, folks, as you watch us, or if you haven't seen us before, make sure you go on YouTube and subscribe at Comeback Sports. That's Comeback Space Sports in YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Check us out. A lot of good stuff up on there. First topic of the night, though, is the NFL playoffs. We're going to start with the NFC playoff games, where we had the Bucs defeating the Saints, and then we also had Green Bay taking down the Rams over on Saturday. So two pretty good games. I actually thought these were probably the two funner games of the weekend, although the Chiefs-Browns game was awesome on the AFC side. We're talking about NFC for now. Brandon, what did you think of the two NFC games?
I think, like you said, those are probably the two best games of the weekend. I think you got the best football played in those two games as well. And especially in that Saints game against the Bucs, that was obviously two of the best going up against each other. We're getting, obviously, again this weekend with Brady versus Rodgers, which we'll talk about later in the show. But that game between Brady and Breeze was pretty amazing. Obviously, Breeze kind of looked off the mark, didn't play as good as I know he would like to, especially if that's his last game and might be retiring. Sadly, I don't know if it's official. I don't think I've seen official yet. I know we saw that Phillip Rivers is retired, but I don't think we have seen if Drew Brees has yet. And it would be sad if he did. Obviously, we'd be losing one of the best. But that was honestly a game of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time. And Brady played pretty good. But I think the defense really is what put him in the position to really take the control of the game and to win it. The defense played well, intercepting Breeze twice. They put him under pressure most of the game. So I think that was really what set the tone. So Tom Brady really just didn't have to do too much. Just came out and freaking basically managed the game. Leonard Fournette played great. Once again, we've talked about him on this show before, but he has really proven himself as a receiving back. He once again did it in this game, was receiving and running the ball. I think over 100 yards combined between the two. So he had a great game. So, yeah, I mean, the Bucs just really looked good overall. Beat the Saints, and they're moving on. And then in the other game, I think it was a little bit of a shock for me. I thought you were going to see a little bit better of a game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers, but I think it came out to show that Green Bay is really legit, and they deserve that number 1 seed right now. Playing at a high level. Coach Matt LaFleur has had them playing at a high level. We'll talk about him later on in the show as well. But Aaron Rodgers is just looking great right now. But here's the thing that I was surprised about. I thought you would see Jalen Ramsey get a little bit better of Davante Adams, but really it was vice versa of that, where you saw Davante Adams pretty much getting anything that he wanted. Jalen Ramsey was frustrated at times in coverage, frustrated with his teammates at times, blaming busted coverages on them. So I think that's what really shocked me. The Rams defense didn't really come to play, and Green Bay looked legit, and they got the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was surprising that the Rams defense, which has been pretty dominant all season long, just didn't look sharper in that game against Green Bay. I know Green Bay is one of the best offenses in the league. Aaron Rodgers probably going to win MVP. He's been probably the best quarterback this season with Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen. But I was surprised. It just didn't seem like Aaron Donald was completely healthy. We know he had the torn, I think it was a torn muscle in his ribs or something around torn cartilage in his ribs. And I think it was a tough game for him. He didn't look as good. It looked like there was something wrong there with him. He was very emotional after the game as well. So tough way for him to go out. Like you mentioned, Ramsey didn't get totally burnt on a bunch of plays, but he just didn't look like his dominant self, especially he's going up against one of the best receivers in the NFL, and Devontae Adams. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Bucs Saints game, even though we had two of the most decorated quarterbacks in the history of the league, it was a little sloppy. And I thought the two best players for the Bucs in that game, I got to give kudos to you. You mentioned last week that the Bucs didn't have Devin White. He showed up against the Saints without question. He was all over the field. Yeah, absolutely. Had the big-time interception, but he was making tackles all over the place. They really missed him the week before, and you really saw him play an outstanding game against the Saints. And then you also mentioned Leonard Fournette, who was definitely the offensive player of the game, running the ball hard, also catching the ball out of the backfield. And we've seen Tom Brady, as Patriots fans, we've seen Brady throw it to running backs as good as anybody, and that was their best offensive weapon the entire game, was throwing it to Fournette in the open flat. So that's the type of games that we saw. As much as we think of Breeze and Brady as these two all-time quarterbacks, it wasn't really like a shootout like you would think with two high-profile quarterbacks. Breeze just doesn't have the arm strength anymore. It's like you mentioned, it's unfortunate if he does retire, but I think it's time for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, sad to say, but really that might be the truth, honestly.